Here I am getting ready to finish the last few log cabin blocks that I'm quilting on Snow in October, and I'm just wanted to try and video this for posterity, really. But if it comes out, I'll make a video and post it online on the website. I know this was always something that I when I was doing my first few quilts, it was always something that was a mystery to me how these quilts got quilted on a home sewing machine. These are large quilts. This is a large quilt. It's a good queen size quilt. But since I've done probably about 80% so far of the inside of the quilt, I feel a little comfortable now that I can go ahead and just record what I'm doing on the log cabin portion of it. So here we go. If you've not seen how a thread gets started or gets pulled up from the bobbin, let me just show you that real quick. I put the presser foot down and I do one stitch. And this machine has a foot controller that will do a half stitch at a time, and I'm just bringing up the bobbin thread right up. And that will help me to control any unnecessary looping or thread nests underneath the quilt. And I'm just gonna do a couple stitches just to lock it in. And it's very similar, it's exactly the same process as embroidery. This is also a machine that has an embroidery module, and when you do embroidery, the first few stitches are just locking stitches, and then the machine will usually sew a couple stitches forward, stop, and it will let you trim off those threads. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to do the same thing. So I did my locking stitches, and I'm going to proceed about an inch down. Put my needle into the fabric, and I'm just going to reach back behind and clip those threads. And I'm going to make sure I put those threads in the garbage. I don't want to roll on those threads. I don't want them to hang out on my quilt and get stitched into them. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to call it straight stitching, but it's really not straight. In free motion, I have found that straight stitching is very hard to do. I'm just going slow, and I'm eyeballing a line, trying to keep my presser foot close to the edge. And it will come out somewhat straight, but really it really comes out more wonky than straight. And at first, when I first did the first block, I thought, oh no, what was I thinking? What have I done? But so far, you know, when every block is wonky and not straight, it all kind of looks like it goes together. I mean, that's a big secret. If you don't think you're good, or good enough, but if you're consistent and consistently not good enough, you know what, your quilt is going to look great. It's going to look like it was meant to be that way. So right now my quilt is meant to be this way. It's meant to look wonky. And I know once I get this washed and the fabric has a chance to shrink and relax a bit and settle in, it'll look great. So whenever you start and stop in free motion, I always like to put my needle into the fabric. And then when I take off a bit, I like to just make sure that that needle is going into the same place where I left it. So if ever you get like these little waves and ripples, just flatten it out as best you can. Now, of course, I have a camera in my lap while I'm doing this, but one thing that you don't want to do is you want to try to get your quilt up as high as you can so that you can decrease any drag. You don't want to drag the quilts. That will affect your stitching for sure. I'm just trying to be consistent with my stitches. Working my way back to the beginning. And there, I'm back to the beginning. Now, one thing you've noticed is I'm not wearing any gloves. Well, I've discovered during this quilt that my gloves, I'll show them to you now. I've been using machine gears, but I think I've pretty much worn them out. I'm going to try washing them, but they pretty much, I think, have lost their stickiness. These are, I've loved these. I've quilted the last 5 quilts with them. I think I've done 5 quilts. But it's just gotten to the point where it's just more or less kind of a pain. And rather than going out and getting another pair, I've wanted to try something that I saw online. I don't know where I saw it. I don't know if I saw it in a quilt forum. But I have this bottle of glycerin. I've had it forever. I've had this bottle for probably 15 years. And glycerin, and I believe, is a byproduct of when you make soap. And it's non-toxic. It's used in a lot of products. But what I do is I just take the bottle, I just do one little dab. Okay, try not to do that over your quilt like I am, but I'm showing you on camera. And just take this and rub this on your hands. And it's just a little bit, I mean it's like 1 or 2 drops. But I find just one little tap over of the bottle, and any extra just rub on the top of your hands. And you can see my hands, they have just a little bit, and it's not really oily, it's not too terribly sticky, but what I find is that it really does the job. It really does work. And I have sweaty palms. My palms sweat. And you know, since I've done the whole entire quilt this way, I think I'm going to continue doing it. And I think that's bad news for machine gears and anybody else whose gloves I would have bought, but I'm telling you, it works. It works great. So, alright, so the next step in my log cabin block is to to do my little wavy lines. I've just been doing just a wavy line, and I get my machine up to speed a little bit, and I just go back and forth. My ups and downs are not perfect. They're really quite wonky. And then when I get to my corner, I'm just kind of do a little loop, and I'm just changing directions to work my way back up. Every now and then I'm going to stop, and I just want to check and make sure everything's flat, reposition, and continue on. When I got to the edge, I'm going to do some backtrack sewing. Backtrack, backtrack. Coming down to the next block. And then I start my straight stitching again. I finished these bars on this log cabin, the logs, and now I'm at a point where I need to bring up the bobbin thread and I need to cut it off because I need to go on to the next block and I can't get there from where I'm at. So how I end this is I just do a couple of locking stitches, and I might travel just a little bit, and that's all there is to it. And I'm gonna push out. I'm gonna take my finger and I'm gonna take this thread, I'm gonna hold it, and then I'm gonna drop my needle and bring it up. And with that, I should be able to pull up a blue thread, and that is the bobbin thread. Just pull all these threads out, and with your scissors, just clip at the end here, and make sure you throw all those threads away. And then I'm gonna pull this out, and what will be left is that long bobbin thread will sink back down underneath, and you can see that here. Okay, there's that bobbin thread, and then here are those top threads. And because I've already lock stitched this in place, I'm going to just trim this off. You know what, this quilt is not a competition quilt. This quilt is going to be used on a bed, it's going to be snuggled in, it's just going to be used. So I really am not that concerned about anything that maybe a judge might think about how I lock those stitches. So I'm not even sure if they could tell, but maybe they could. I don't know. I've never done a competition quilt. So, but anyway, you can see on the back that there's no get a light on there, but there's no threads on the back. So that, I think that's great. I think it's a great technique, and I'm on to the next block. So I think in the next video I'll show you how I did the feather portion of the log cabin. So hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you later. Bye bye.